And here's some things we can do to guard against unrealistic thinking. Everyone at some point in time will come, they're going to come across this. I promise you. First one, admit our weaknesses. That's the first one. Admit our weaknesses. You can't define reality if you won't face reality. You have to admit your weakness, right? Number two, you have to embrace realistic people. A leader's responsibility is to define reality. Listen, I've learned that people change only when they heard enough that they have, listen, that they have to or learn enough that they want to. In my case, I remember when I was given an ultimatum that prompted me to learn about myself, along with, just everything I needed to do to continue to grow my business. And in 2017, I remember having a conversation with the CEO of the company, president, and I was basically put on a PIP, which is a performance improvement plan, because I had two years prior to that of no growth, and it wasn't even crazy but at the end of the day, I remember learning and coming to the reality that growth is not optional. It's mandatory. We have to grow. And that literally, by not facing the reality and having to make some very uncomfortable changes to what, I was doing, and what other people were doing, some things that were out of my control. I promise you guys, I was beating myself up, and I eventually came face to face with the issues. And you want to know what I found out? All along, it was me at the end of the day. So I ended up like doing some soul searching of trying to figure out, like, what am I missing? Like, what am I missing? And you know what I came to the realization on? I wasn't growing myself enough. I really wasn't. I was focused on so many things, but I truly wasn't growing myself enough. So that was that point in time in my career where, I remember having a talk after I ended up having like a crazy year that year, made executive council, blah, blah, blah. All this good stuff started to happen. And I remember telling the individuals at our convention how I got out of the driver's seat and got in the passenger seat, because I was trying to drive everything myself, and I said, God, take the wheel. Like, I can only do so much myself. It's time for me to get up out this seat. I'm getting in the passenger seat. You direct this ship. I can go on and on and on about that journey, but what I'm trying to tell you guys is that I wasn't facing reality. And when I came to reality, things started to change, and I also came across some books that helped me in the process of the decisions that I had to make on the things that I had to deal with within my organization. And here's some of the rules that helped me in the process. I'll give you some. So the first one was control your destiny or someone else will. From this situation, that's what I learned. Control your destiny or someone else will. The second one, face reality as it is, not as it was or as you wish it were. Be candid with everyone. Be real with everyone. I got examples for everything I'm saying of as I've looked back on what was happening. Number four, don't manage, lead. Don't manage, lead. Number five, change before you have to change. Change before you have to change. And number six, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. If you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. All of this advice was about facing reality at the end of the day. It's like having a bit of cold water thrown in your face, and I want you guys to know, one of the pitfalls that can stop leaders is the desire to focus on vision that's detriment of facing reality. And my belief in people, what I found out is like my belief in people and desire to protect people I loved got in the way of facing the truth and being honest with them when it comes to their performance and how it was hurting the company. And I got stories for days of things that were just happening that, man, was hurting my organization and contributing towards the reason why I wasn't having growth. And I learned the reality is the foundation, that the foundation for positive change, when you're looking at everything and you put it all together is, I came to the realization that, optimistic people naturally encourage others, but need to continually keep an eye on here's the following things you got to keep an eye on. The situation, because I had a situation going on at this time. And the reality is a lot of times the situation is often worse than what you think. The process. The process usually takes longer than you think. And the price. The price usually costs more than you think. And here's a book. Pete, you guys ever heard of Peter Drucker? Never heard the name Peter Drucker? He wrote a book called Managing in Turbulent Times. Here's a quote from the book. He said, "A time of turbulence is a dangerous time, but its greater danger is a temptation to deny reality." And, as leaders, what we do or don't do always have consequences. We can try to maintain an unrealistic outlook or lifestyle, but someday we're going to have to pay a realistic price for it. Someday, so there's no avoiding it. Whether you like or not, you're not going to avoid that price. And the ability to define reality as a leader means embracing realistic thinking so that we can see the consequences of our actions further and with greater clarity than those around us. And why is this important? Why am I telling you guys this? Because when you're a leader, other people are depending on you. Other people are depending on you. And here are some things we can do to guard against unrealistic thinking. Everyone at some point in time they're going to come across this, I promise you, unrealistic thinking. Here's some things we can do to guard against unrealistic thinking. You ready? First one, admit our weaknesses. That's the first one. Admit our weaknesses. Just like an alcoholic does at AA meetings. I remember I sat through an AA meeting with one of my relatives one time, and they would start the meeting and they would talk about, I must confess. And you know what? The interesting thing about this is that you can't define reality if you won't face reality. You have to admit your weakness. Everyone has a weakness. Ain't nobody walking around on this earth is perfect. I'll tell you that much. Right? Number two, you have to embrace realistic people. You guys ever heard the saying, birds of a feather flock together? It's so true. I remember hearing that all the time. My mom, that was one of her famous sayings, birds of a feather, because she would always try and tell me to stop hanging around people when I was younger. And she knew what she was talking about, I'll tell you that much. But listen, it's wise to surround yourself with people who complete you. People who complete you. Number three, seek honesty from others. Avoid having a lot of yes men and women around you. You got to be secure enough in yourself to ask for truth from others. As I'm giving you guys this, I promise you, these are the things I had to reflect on, coming to the realization about myself. Number four, invite fresh eyes to check you out. It's amazing what you don't see when you're in a familiar environment. You got to get outside sources to observe and tell you what they see. This is one of the reasons why companies pay outside consultants to come in. Okay. So here's a reflection exercise that we can all do on this topic. I want you guys to think about the people in your life who speaks truth to you. And here's one thing I want you to do. Whoever these individuals are, I want you to thank them. I want you to thank them. and do whatever is necessary to keep them in your life. Because you know why? Honor them. Yes, absolutely honor them too. Because we all need people who will tell us what we need to hear. We all do. Every single one of us. Those are the people who help keep us down to earth. You got to have some down to earth people in your life. So that was my topic that I wanted to talk about today.